Hello, today we will start chapter 10. This is part 1 of chapter 10. So just like previous chapters, we go part by part. It is about the most interesting concept in economics, the money, and fractional reserve system, if you wish. So we are going to basically have these learning objectives. Number one, we will overview the concept of money. We define the money and discuss its functions, and maybe we will also give a little bit of background history of the money. And then we explain in the learning objective 2 how banks create money. This is the story of fractional reserve system. There's this question that who's creating money. Usually people think that it's the government or central banks because they're printing it. That's one part of the story. The bulk of money created in the society is actually created by commercial banks. So we will discuss how money is being created and what are the total amount of money aggregates in each economy. So we will discuss about that. Then we will give a little bit of exposure to Federal Reserve System and how central banks are controlling over the money, very briefly. And we also talk about the Keynesian definition of the money demand. In another chapters, we are giving the quantitative theory of money, but in this chapter, we will discuss the way that the money has a relationship with interest rate as the cost of borrowing or proxy price of the money, a proxy variable for considering as the price of money, or so the economic value of the money. Okay, so that is going to be also covered in this chapter. Then we move on explaining the relationship between interest and security prices. Security, by security we refer to the bonds, followed by that we show that there's an inverse relationship between these two, and we will move on then on explaining how central banks controlling the money supply or the interest rate, either one, either the money aggregates or the interest rates. And then some of the discussions are in the context of the United States. Again, we're gonna skip those things, and we remain focused on the conceptual aspects of money and banking in this chapter. So let's start with the money. Over the last two chapters, chapter 8 and 9, we explored how consumers and firms and government interact in goods and services market. But we assume that the money is not an issue. There is money in circulation, and people are paying for different goods and services with the help of the money existing in that society. Now in this chapter we will discuss the money market. So if I take you back to chapter 9, circular flow diagram, our focus was analyzing the goods and services market in chapter 8 and 9, as I said it before. Now we are going to talk about a little bit on the money market, where some people are offering their money, spare money, savings, to those who are in demand of it, and there is going to be an interest rate which is determine the value or economic value or opportunity cost of holding money, something like that. So we will discuss about this in this chapter. So how the money market works in macroeconomics. This is the general perspective of this chapter. So for starting that, for doing that, we are starting from the definition of the money. So what is the money? This is a very generic definition. This is a very generic definition. Money is a means of payment, a store of value, a unit of account. So we are defining, like if I ask you what is a chair, you would say that a chair is a tool of which people sit on it and rest. So this is for the purpose, the function which the chair is doing is that for seating. Okay, for sitting or resting. That is the function which the chair is doing. So what is money? We would say that what functions money do? Money does. And this is three functions, 2, 3. This is the number 1, this is the number 2, and this is the number 3. So it's a means of payments or medium of exchange, store of value. So if you hold it, instead of spending it, you can hold it for the future use. So it's storing your value, and it's a unit of measurement for every valuation. So if we have hundreds of items in the GDP, we noted that how it came to help. We were unable to add apple and orange because they are two different things, and we have thousands of items, so we cannot say that how much the total output is. But if you multiply it by their prices, they're all becoming monetary value, and then we can add them together, and that will give you the nominal GDP if this is the price of the time. If it's the price of a fixed year, then it's the real value or real GDP. So we said that there is two things, real GDP and nominal GDP. So if you are taking the price of the base year for all items, then you are calculating the real GDP. But if you are taking every year the price of the current year, so this is called nominal GDP. So the unit of value is what we call it, the money. Money is the way that we can actually say that how much everything else worth in terms of one item. So this functional definition of the money is very useful. So means of payments, as I said, it's also called medium of exchange. Medium of exchange. What the medium of exchange means. Let's start with a very simplified example. Let's say our economy consists of only 2 items. So 2 commodity economy. And for the sake of simplification, and then we generalize it for others. For the sake of simplification, item 1 is fish, and item 2 is bread. So it's like in the village there are fishermen go to the sea and catch fish, and there is in the village there is a bakery. They're basically cooking, baking bread, and the fisherman goes and stops in front of the bakery and say, I have fish, you have bread. Do you want to exchange? If the answer is yes, the deal can be done. So the market which we can imagine is like this, because it's two commodity. It's very simple. It's very simple. We have fish and we have bread, and the way that they're exchanging good for good. This good for good is called barter. Okay, barter. But the price of fish is determined by the number of fish per unit of bread, and in the bread we would say the price of bread in terms of the number of fish. Okay, so there are several fishermen, there are several bakeries. They can do the deal. So the demand for fish is like this, and the supply of fish is going to be look like this, and the supply for the bread is like this, and the demand for the bread is like this, and there would be an equilibrium points for each of them. This is where the amount which has been exchanged is fulfilling all the demand and supply. So let's give some number for the sake of simplicity. So I assume that 5 fish is being sold for 10 breads, and that is where the equilibrium in both markets, equilibrium in both markets happens at the same time. So because 10 bread is being given and 5 fish is being taken, so what is the price of bread per fish is 10 over 5, so it is 2 bread per fish. So every 2 bread is equal to 1 fish, and in this case it is 5 fish for 10, so it is half a fish per bread. Half a fish per bread. This is 2 bread per fish, because this 5 and 10, these are the only commodities existing. So we see that the prices are basically reciprocal. The fish per bread is equal 1 over bread per fish. And because there is only 2 commodities, so the barters is happening, because there's no other commodity. There would be coincidence of wants. And the price is determined in this way, that how much, depending on which one is more available, whether the bread is available or the fish is available, that's going to be valued in reciprocal manner. So here we have half, and here we have 1 over 2. It's exactly matching. Okay, and this economy doesn't matter whether you consider fish as the medium of exchange or bread. Doesn't matter. Their relative values are going to be considered. But if we have more commodities, so now let's make it more complex. Number 3, number 4. So let's just like fish, we might have chicken. Bread, we can have rice, and we can have so many other things, of which maybe the number 100 is the gold, and number 101 might be silver. And then we have maybe 10,000 thousands of commodities. So then no longer commodity, 10,000 of commodity economy. Okay, so there's so many. Let's call it N. Okay, N market. I'm sorry, N commodity economy. So at the end we have the N as the last item. So we have N items. In this situation, the coincidence of ones may not be appearing easily, because the fisherman goes to the bakery and say, I have fish, you have bread. And maybe the bakery wants chicken. Maybe the bakery wants rice. Maybe the bakery wants gold, silver, okay? All the other items. So the chance of saying the answers is yes, yes. The baker would say that, yes, I want fish. And the fisherman would say, yes, I want bread. So that's the coincidence of ones. So this becomes very rare. In N commodity, coincidence of ones becomes very unlikely. The societies decided to pick up one item, let's say the gold, the 100th item, and value everything with that single item. So then we have actually a market for fish, a market for bread, a market for rice, etc., etc. And the vertical axis is going to be fish per gold and bread per gold and rice per gold, and this goes on and on. So you have to find one item which is generally accepted. So the acceptability is a good condition for what items to be used as a medium of exchange. So a medium of exchange is an acceptable item out of N items. This simplifies things, because now the fisherman don't have to be worried the coincidence of one. He will sell his fish for the gold and then take the gold and go and buy bread or rice or whatever. So this is basically helping for specialization of the economy, specialization. And this is that candidate for the medium of exchange is possible with the help of the money. So in this example, we equate the gold as the money. And this type of money were called commodity money. Commodity money. Later, the paper money came. Paper money. So we are going to talk about a little bit how the paper money approach, or it's called fiat money. Or the best name for the paper money is currency. So we will say that how Omani Rial is a piece of paper which says like 50 Rial or 20 Rial, 50 Rial written on a piece of paper, printed very nicely. And this paper with the gold has itself has an intrinsic value. Intrinsic value. It means that that is carrying some values because the gold is a precious metal and it's rare. Fish, bread, all have intrinsic value. Some of them are getting rotten very rapidly, so they are short-lived. So gradually people choose an item which is storable and durable. They picked up the item such as gold and silver, which they are precious material, and the supply of it's in the nature is limited, and its supply, it depends on the abundance of the nature, how much it exists, and that is actually a very good thing to keep the values of everything's intact. If we have a sudden increase of the supply of something which is the medium of exchange, then the purchasing power of it's dropping. Like with the competition between silver and gold and bronze, of course bronze is more available than silver, than by gold. So you have to go to pick up an item which is rarer and it's more durable. Hence, if people are storing it, their value is going to be intact for a longer duration. So that is the story behind the money. We're going to talk about a little bit how commodity money is converted to paper money or fiat money or legal tender. It's coming. So, but before that, let me go through the slides. So medium of exchange is starting from the barter. The barter is the direct exchange of goods for goods. Okay, a barter system requires a double coincidence of wants, I said, for trade to take place. If the fishermen don't want bread and the bakery don't want fish, then the deal, the barter it's falling apart. The deal is not going to be taking place. So that is to affect the trade. You have to find someone who has what you want, and that person must have also the want of what you have. So it is going, the coincidence of wants is very, very difficult to take place in for more than two commodities in a society. The possibility of coincidence of wants for 3 items, it's basically becomes 1/3. As there are 3 items, and the chance is increasing. Whereas for the 2 items, it's happening. It's always happening. And for n items, that there's a formulation which by the combination we can determine it. So medium of exchange or means of payments, it's what sellers generally accept. This acceptability is very, and buyers generally use to pay for the goods and services. So this is the definition of the medium of exchange. It is the most important aspects of, or the functions of the money. But there are 2 more. Store of value. Store of value is people hold money because they don't want to spend. They want to keep their value intact. Okay, so that money has to have all the 3 conditions. So an asset that can be used to transport or to allow the purchasing power to be held over time from one period to another period, this is called the store of value. And store of value comes right after the characteristics of the property of liquidity property of the money. It's readily available. You can hold it. You if you wish, you can hold it for several periods. But the moment you want to spend, it is liquid because that acceptability is there. So liquidity is about how readily available to be used to buy or to pay the debt, or to buy some things, to pay for the transaction. So the main disadvantage of the money, and here I should say maybe the paper money, is that it may lose its purchasing power. If everything becomes more expensive, then 50 riyal can buy less. So the paper money is a good thing for the medium as a medium of exchange, but it may lose its value, and that is why the store of value may not be considered for the currency or paper money. Unit of account, we already told you that this is a standard unit that provides a consistent way of quoting the prices of everything. So if you pick one item out of n item and say that everything let's be valued by that specific item, be it gold or silver or Omani Riyal, that is considered as unit of account. So in Oman, our unit of denomination for valuation is Omani Riyal. In United States is US dollar, etc., etc. So this is 3 functions must be all together for calling an item, acceptable item, a money. A thing can be money if A is medium of exchange, B it can store of value, and C a unit of account. If all of them are there, then we can use the expression of the money. If one or two of them are not fulfilled and it's only the medium of exchange, it is called currency. So currency is a type of money which may or may not have all 3 at once. So if inflation happens, currency is losing purchasing power. It means that it is no longer good for store of value. If there is an inflation, you should not hold money. You should immediately convert it into some commodity, because tomorrow that items or any items are going to be more expensive. So inflation kills the notion of the money, and sometimes mistakenly we use equivalent. Currency and money are equated, but the money is the only thing which all the 3 options are considered. Is gold nowadays money? Of course, gold is good for store of value, and of course we can value everything against the relative prices with gold. That is also, but is it a medium of exchange? Is it acceptable? If you take the gold coin to the, let's say, shopkeeper and say, I give you the gold and give me these items, they will refuse you. They said, go to the goldsmith and sell it and make it cash and come and buy it. So the gold nowadays is not a money. A money must have all 3 together. The gold was money until 1971. Ever since 1971, then no longer we have gold standard. Actually, the gold standard or the gold money naturally emerged, and from time to time during the World War I, World War II, it stopped because for the political reason, for the war, they were not using the gold as the money, and they were using only the paper. So in the 1920s in Germany, the paper money was printed rapidly, and inflation was 1,000,000%, and nobody was using gold as the backbone of the money. But in 1944, up until this time, a group of countries get together in a place called Bretton Woods in Seattle, Washington, and they accepted that the US dollar to be equated with certain amount of gold, and all the other currencies, being mark, being British pound, being Japanese yen, be it real, all of them were fixed to the US dollar, and the US dollar were fixed. So the gold standard was happening from 1944, end of World War II, until 1971, when this was stopped by the United States. And ever since, we have the so-called legal tender or fiat currency, or fiat currency if you want to pronounce it in British currency. And the problem with this is that we move to something to be known as modern monetary theory, or MMT. Modern monetary theory is that the central banks are in charge of the legal tender. By definition, the legal tender by definition, legal tender is the money that a government has required to be accepted in settlements of debt. So Omani Riyal is a legal tender for Oman. US dollar is a legal tender for the world, not only for the United States, because a lot of international exchanges also made in US dollar. And we have commodity money, which naturally emerged, gold and silver or bronze in the ancient empires, Islamic empires. It was mostly precious metal, and it has the intrinsic value. I like this word, and it means that fi zate, it has value. Fiat or token, or this is wrong to say money. We should call them currency. Fiat or token currency. It's the medium of exchange, but may not be necessarily a good candidate for store of value or unit of account. These two depends on whether the prices are fixed or not. So the legal tender came, and it's a government's promise, to keep its value constant. So this is the modern monetary theory is based on, and the paper money is being controlled so as the value is remaining intact. So in addition to declaring that its currency is legal tender, the government usually promises the public that it will not print paper money so fast, so as it loses its value. So the control of or responsibility of the government is to keep its value intact. But we see that the government, it's not only their job in the modern world. Like Turkey lira is now devaluated. It's losing its value suddenly because of the issues, the political issues they have with United States. Or what happened in Iran. In Iran, because of the sanctions, the government basically devaluated its currency against the US dollar. And because if they didn't do it, quickly their foreign reserves, the US reserves in the central bank of Iran, was going to finish. People were expecting that things are not going to be stable in their national currency. They rush to buy more stable money, and that is devaluing. This has happened in Russia, this has happened in Zimbabwe, this has happened in Argentina. So it brings the instability in the currency. So it's not an easy job to keep your promise that the currencies relatively to other currencies are, by the way, even the US currency is value against every other currencies are not constant. So it is the game which the China is playing with the US, and whenever the US tries to devaluate its currency, the Chinese also bring it down, so they cannot basically allow the US to manipulate their economy. But in some economies, this is very difficult to be handled, like in the case of Iran, Russia, or Argentina, which they announced the bankruptcy for the government, in Zimbabwe as well. So the phenomena is called currency debasement or currency devaluation. Devaluation. Or if it's happening naturally, depreciation. So if it's deliberately done, it's called devaluation. If it's done through the market mechanism, it's called depreciation. Depreciation means a currency is losing its purchasing power against alternative currencies or US dollar. So decrease in the value of the money that occurs because the supply of the money is being going crazy. It's the paper and ink. It's paper and ink. And they can actually add the zeros. They can add the zeros, and with the help of the same ink and same paper, just adding the number of the zeros, it is devaluation or debasement of the currency, and it is inflationary phenomena, inflation. So the countries which are phenomenal, you can find it in the internet, is Zimbabwe, Germany in 1920s, Argentina in early 2000s, you name it, Iran, hyperinflation. So these are facing the hyperinflation. It's not just the single digit inflation, 1%, 2%. It's more than 50%, more than sometimes 100%, or 1,000,000% inflation, as we learned it in chapter 7, how to measure the inflation. So this is the meaning of the money, and the central banks are basically controlling the legal tender value deliberately. So it brings a lot of responsibility for the central banks under the modern monetary theory, the way that they can keep the values. It was happening in every countries, but New Zealand in 1991 introduced a methodology of which controlling the watching the CPI, Consumer Price Index, and try to keep it fixed. And how do they do it? When there is oversupply of money, they are reducing it from the market, and if it is less, they are pumping new money, printing new money. So it is by the printing machines encrypted printing machines. This is in the control of the central bank, and their control variable is the CPI. If the CPI is remaining the same, they are printing for new money. If the CPI still start jumping suddenly and causing inflation, they have to actually recollect the money from the hands of the people. And there are tools which in this chapter we are going to talk about those things. Okay, let me stop it here, and we will go to the next learning objective. Thank you.